Have you ever stopped to look at a world map and wondered which of those borders hides the birthplace of the most enigmatic and feared figure in human history? The burning question, which has kept eschatological scholars awake at night for centuries, is this: from which country will the Antichrist come? Get ready, because today we're going to delve deep into a geopolitical and prophetic investigation that goes far beyond cheap conspiracy theories. We're talking about deciphering ancient codes contained in biblical prophecies, cross-referencing data from Daniel, Ezekiel, and Revelation with the pulsating reality of today's newspapers. The world stage is changing. The pieces on the global chessboard are moving frantically, and many believe that the leader who will deceive the nations is already walking among us, awaiting only the exact moment of his revelation on the international stage. If you seek to understand the end times, the Great Tribulation, and the role of current superpowers in the closing of the ages, this video is your definitive guide. Many point to Europe, others swear that the danger is reborn in the sands of the Middle East, and some see clear signs coming from the far north. But what does biblical exegesis really reveal about the geographical origin of the man of sin? Is he a charismatic leader from a modern democracy, or a ruthless dictator of a resurrected empire? The urgency of this topic is absolute, because understanding the origin of the Antichrist is the first step to avoid being deceived by the system he is about to implement. We are not just talking about religion. We are talking about foreign policy, military alliances, and the total economic control that is being designed before our eyes. To begin this journey of discovery, I need your active participation. If you had to bet today, based on what you see happening in the world, which nation do you believe is most likely to give rise to this global leadership? Leave your opinion here in the comments right now, because the debate we are about to start will shake your convictions. It's fascinating to note how the signs point in directions that most ignore. While the world looks one way, the prophecy may be silently unfolding in the opposite direction. Let's analyze each clue, from the rebirth of the Roman Empire to the tensions on the Euphrates River, to filter out speculation and prophetic fact. The national identity of this character is not just a curious detail. It is the master key to understanding God's timeline for humanity. And what if I told you that the answer may be hidden in a specific lineage that connects past empires with the powers that dominate the news? Now, as we move forward, you will realize that what seemed like an impossible puzzle begins to form a clear and frightening picture. The time for ignoring the warnings is over, and the geography of the prophecy is more alive than ever, pointing to a place you may never have seriously considered until now. Before we delve into the heart of this investigation that could completely change your perspective on the future of nations, I need you to do something fundamental. Leave your opinion in the comments right now. Which country or region of the globe, in your analysis, currently fulfills all the requirements to witness the emergence of this global leader? Serious debate and the exchange of information are the most powerful tools we have to discern the times, and your participation is what drives this community of truth seekers. Understanding this content is not just a matter of theological or historical curiosity. It's a matter of preparation and vigilance. In the information-saturated world we live in, discernment is our only buffalo, and understanding prophetic geography allows us to see what is hidden in the subtext of major geopolitical decisions. If you value this type of in-depth analysis and want to continue receiving these detailed studies on what is to come, take this moment to leave your like. Your thumbs up signals to the platform that this valuable content needs to reach more people who, like you, are not satisfied with superficial explanations. And of course, if you've just stumbled upon this and aren't yet part of our community, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Don't let the next developments in this revelation go unnoticed, because we are about to connect the threads that link the ancient imperial capitals to the modern seats of power. From now on, what was just theory begins to take on real shape, and each detail we will expose will be a brick in the construction of understanding how the Antichrist's system will rise and why. Its origin is the best-kept secret of the global elites and the prophecies sealed until the end times. When we talk about the origin of the Antichrist, the first thing we need to do is clear our minds of all those limited movie images. Forget that caricatured villain or the movie politician who takes over the world overnight. The prophetic reality revealed in the scriptures is much more subtle, intelligent, and infinitely more dangerous. The Apostle John and the prophet Daniel don't describe a terrifying monster, but rather a genius of global diplomacy, a master of economics, and a leader capable of resolving international crises that seemed impossible. He won't arrive declaring war immediately. He will arrive offering the peace that everyone seeks. And that's exactly where the imminent danger and the great mystery of his true origin lie. Where would such a brilliant and yet so corrupt mind emerge? The Bible gives us fascinating geographical clues about the rise of the greatest opponent of the faith. But it does so through coded language, using symbols, beasts, and statues that represent literal kingdoms and empires. The great challenge of eschatology and the study of the end times is that there is no biblical verse that clearly states the name of the modern country of its origin. You won't open the book of Revelation and read the name of a current nation printed on its pages. Instead of modern names that change with wars, the scriptures give us a true prophetic GPS, based on the geography of the ancient world. God revealed to the prophets not only the moral characteristics of this leader of the new order, but also the territorial base from which his absolute power would emanate during the Great Tribulation. We are talking about clear signs pointing to specific regions of the globe, areas that were the cradle of ancient dominant empires, and that are today at the center of the greatest geopolitical tensions. When we look at the visions of the prophet Daniel, we see terrible beasts emerging from the sea. For scholars, this sea was not just any ocean, but the Great Sea, the well-known Mediterranean Sea. This restricts our investigative search to a very specific geographical axis that involves the lands of Europe, North Africa, and the turbulent Middle East. Studying the true origin of the Antichrist is like assembling a millennial puzzle. We need to carefully examine the iron and clay feet of the statue that the Babylonian king dreamed of and decipher the horns of the beast described in Revelation, cross-referencing everything with ancient maps and modern borders. Before we open the maps, to point out the first and greatest geographical suspect in this prophetic investigation, I want to test the level of attention of those who accompany me on this journey. If you have made it this far and want to understand these eschatological mysteries in depth, go to the comments now and type the following phrase: the signs of the end. Write it exactly like this in the comments: the signs of the end. So I know that you are part of the group of people who study the Bible and are not deceived by the appearances of this world. Keep in mind what we have just established about the Mediterranean Sea and the ancient biblical borders, because our next step will connect these millennial clues with a powerful current block of nations. And it is precisely by looking at the shores of this great Mediterranean Sea that we encounter the most classic and accepted theory within biblical eschatology, the legacy of the Roman Empire. To understand this line of thought that points to the European continent, we need to enter the mind of the prophet Daniel. He had visions about the future of the nations, describing 4 beasts that would rise from the earth. The 4th beast terrified the prophet, a terrifying and strong creature with iron teeth that devoured everything. Historically, there is no doubt this beast was the Roman Empire, the relentless war machine of antiquity. But Daniel's prophecy, connected to the book of Revelation, reveals a frightening detail. This empire would not die forever. It would suffer a mortal wound, but would be healed, resurfacing in the last days in a different political form, described as the feet of Nebuchadnezzar's statue, formed of iron and clay. This composition represents a confederation of strong and weak nations, which try to unite, but do not blend perfectly. Which current superpower fits this geopolitical description perfectly? Theologians point without hesitation to Europe and the European Union. The ancient Roman Empire encompassed much of modern Europe, and today we see this territory unified by complex alliances, wielding immense global diplomatic influence. The idea of a restored Roman Empire is the backbone of many interpretations of the end times. Prophecy says that from this confederation will arise 10 kings, the 10 horns of the beast, and in their midst will rise a small horn, a highly charismatic leader. This small horn, which overthrows leaders and seizes control, would be the Antichrist. If this theological vision is correct, we are looking for a leader who will emerge from the European cradle. Someone capable of unifying the continent's fractures and using this machine to dictate world rules. A political genius with the DNA of Roman power, promising global peace, but carrying the tyranny of the Iron Beast. The current European scenario, with its crises and instability, seems like the fertile ground clamoring for a political Superman. What if the leader of the New World Order is already circulating through the corridors of power in Europe? Before we move on to the next geographical theory, which will shock by pointing in another direction, I want to know what you think of this historical connection. Do you believe that the Iron Beast is already structuring itself on the European continent? Type the phrase, "the Iron Empire," in the comments now. Write it, exactly like that, in the comments, "the Iron Empire," to enrich this prophetic debate. But don't draw final conclusions, because the Roman legacy is only the tip of this eschatological iceberg, and the next vital piece of this puzzle takes us straight to the sands of a territory where the prophets have always kept their eyes fixed, and where the current tension threatens to explode. But what if the great deception doesn't come from luxurious European offices, but rather from the historical and spiritual epicenter of the entire biblical narrative? If we take our eyes off the Roman legacy and turn our attention to the scorching sands of the Middle East, a new and frightening line of prophetic interpretation begins to unfold before us. This theory has gained colossal strength among the leading scholars of eschatology in recent years. To understand this territorial vision, we need to delve into the original geography of the Bible. For the ancient prophets, the center of the world map was never the modern West, but rather the city of Jerusalem. Everything that happens in biblical revelation is calculated from the land of Israel. When we read the book of Daniel, specifically chapter 11, we encounter an enigmatic and cruel political figure called the King of the North. Historically, this prophetic figure points to the Seleucid dynasty, originating from one of the generals who divided the empire of Alexander the Great. The territory ruled by this dynasty corresponded to the region that today encompasses nations in constant turmoil: Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Turkey. Many theologians claim that the eschatological Antichrist, the global dictator of the Great Tribulation, will follow the same steps and behavioral pattern as that ancient king of the north, emerging from the buried ruins of ancient Babylon and the modern Islamic landscape. And here we enter a spine-chilling detail. In several texts of the prophets, such as Micah and Isaiah, the great oppressive enemy of God's people in the last days is mysteriously called the Assyrian. The dreaded ancient Assyria was located precisely in the region where northern Iraq and Syria are today, a geographical area marked by recent terrible wars and the constant emergence of extremist groups. The eschatological argument is extremely strong because it reconnects the origin of the Antichrist with the very cradle of human civilization, the exact ground where the Tower of Babel was erected by Nimrod. It makes perfect biblical sense that the last great global rebellion would be born in the same place where the first took shape. Beyond this historical weight, the Middle East is the true pressure cooker of the current apocalyptic scenario. It is there that economic interests collide head-on with a millennial religious hatred, involving territorial disputes around the great Euphrates River, which plays a terrifying role in the book of Revelation when its waters dry up to prepare the march of the kings of the East, observing Turkey attempting to resurrect the power of the Ottoman Empire. We realize that the machinery of prophecy has never stopped. This geopolitical theory answers numerous questions about how it will use unlikely alliances to propose the false peace agreement at the beginning of the end times. Before we turn the map to our next great prophetic theory, which involves a devastating military power from the coldest corners of the globe, and which has dominated war news today, I want to test your level of engagement with this content. If you were able to visualize this impressive biblical connection with Assyria and Babylon, go to the comments right now and type the phrase, "the King of the North." Write it exactly like that, "the King of the North," so I can confirm that you are following every dense detail of this prophetic mapping. This region is vital. But the eschatological chessboard still holds a colossal military piece that rests in the far north of the map, awaiting the exact moment for its fearsome final invasion march. While many keep their eyes fixed on European capitals or the dunes of the Syrian desert, a colossal shadow begins to loom from a direction that biblical prophets called the far north. And it is here that our investigation takes a purely military and strategic turn. If you open the book of the prophet Ezekiel, in chapters 38 and 39, you will find one of the most detailed and terrifying accounts in all of biblical eschatology, the invasion of Gog from the land of Magog. For centuries, scholars have tried to identify who these people are and where they would come from to march against Israel at the end of times. The geographical clue is unyielding. They come from the far north. If you draw a straight line from Jerusalem towards the North Pole, you will cross the Black Sea and enter directly into the heart of Russia and the nations of Central Asia. Many interpreters argue that the Antichrist, or at least the great military power that will support him, will emerge from this region that has historically always been in direct tension with the West. We are talking about a power that does not bow to traditional diplomatic agreements and possesses an arsenal capable of challenging any global coalition. In the original Hebrew text, Ezekiel mentions the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. For many linguists and historians, Rosh is the etymon that gave rise to the name of modern Russia, while Meshech and Tubal point to areas that today comprise Moscow and the Caucasus regions. What makes this theory fascinating and disturbing is observing how the geopolitical chessboard is aligning exactly as the prophet predicted, more than 2,500 years ago. We see the formation of an unprecedented military alliance between this northern power, Persia, which is modern Iran, and North African nations, such as Libya and Ethiopia. Imagine a leader with overwhelming command capabilities, emerging from a nation that already possesses imperialist tendencies and a desire to rewrite the world order. This character, identified as Gog, would be a type of, or even the Antichrist himself, in his facet as a military conqueror. The one who rides the white horse of the apocalypse with a bow in hand, ready to conquer and dominate. The strength of this interpretation lies in the fact that the Middle East is the stage, but the director of this military chaos would come from much further away, from the frozen steppes where war strategy is the main language. It is not just a religious leader or a Brussels bureaucrat, but an authentic commander of legions who does not accept being contradicted. As tensions between nuclear powers increase and the borders of Eastern Europe become the focus of all newspapers, the prophecy of Magog ceases to be an ancient text and becomes an updated geopolitical risk analysis. Can you see how the pieces are falling into place before our eyes, with alliances that seemed impossible becoming solid military blocks? Before we delve into the fifth and most revealing topic of this video, where we'll connect all these geographical clues to a charismatic yet deceptive profile that will fool even the most observant, I need your input to gauge our community. If you feel the winds blowing from the north today already carry the scent of this ancient prophecy, go to the comments now and type the phrase, "The March of Gog." Write it exactly like that. The March of Gog. So I know you understand the military weight of this revelation, and how the far north could be the cradle of this dark power. And hold your breath, because if the military force comes from the north, what about the mesmerizing charisma that will be this character's definitive trademark on the world stage? We have now reached a crucial point in our prophetic investigation, where we need to raise the level of our gaze and go far beyond the lines drawn on paper maps. Although theories about Europe, the Middle East, or the northern powers are fundamental and grounded in profound biblical texts, there is a dimension that we often ignore because we are distracted by foreign policy, the spiritual and systemic homeland of the Antichrist. We need to understand that, before being a citizen of a specific nation, this figure will be the number one citizen of an unprecedented global government. The country from which he will actually come may not have geographical borders, but rather ideological borders, being built on the foundations of absolute charisma and masterful deception. The Bible warns us in the book of Revelation and in the letters of Paul that the man of sin will not come to power through an immediate, brutal invasion, but rather through an intellectual and spiritual seduction that will leave the world hypnotized. Imagine a leader who speaks not just one people's language, but who masters the narrative of a new world order, offering magical solutions to economic crises that today seem unsolvable and mediating religious conflicts that have lasted for millennia. More important than the nationality printed on his passport will be the system he represents. We are talking about a structure of total control, where technology, economics, and religion merge into a single platform of power. He will be the master of rhetoric, the one who, according to Daniel, will utter arrogant words and appear more robust than his companions. But he will do so with a mask of benevolence, so perfect that even the elect would be deceived if it were possible. The true nationality of the Antichrist is the lie disguised as truth. He will come from the country of the false promise of peace. While newspapers focus on wars and rumors of wars, the stage for the Great Tribulation is being set behind the scenes of large international organizations, and in economic forums where the sovereignty of nations is being silently surrendered to centralized governance. The biblical text focuses intensely on the behavior of this system, a government that demands worship and an economy that demands a brand. Therefore, the question from which country will he come can have a twofold answer. Yes, he will have a physical origin, but his real strength will emanate from a globalist homeland that he himself will help to consolidate. He will be the savior of the nation of a world in chaos, the diplomat who will finally sign the peace agreement in Jerusalem, causing nations to say that phrase that is the definitive sign of the end. Peace and security. This is where the great danger of our generation lies. Are we focusing on the wrong map, looking for a face on a specific flag, while the behavioral signs of the spirit of the Antichrist are already present in all spheres of our current society? The control system is already being tested. Digital charisma is already shaping minds, and the acceptance of a global authority grows with each new world crisis. This reflection takes us to even deeper ground, where the identity of this character begins to merge with the expectations of a humanity that has rejected truth to embrace illusion. Before we take the next step and reveal how this figure will officially present himself to the world and what his first act of absolute power will be, I want you to participate in this discerning analysis. If you perceive that the system of deception is already operating around us, go to the comments now and write the phrase, "the master of deception." Type it exactly like that, "the master of deception," to show that we are vigilant and that we will not be caught off guard by the false peace that is being prepared. Furthermore, if you believe that the world is already clamoring for this global leader, also comment with the word vigilance. Your comment is what keeps this flame burning and prepares us for what comes next. Because the mask is about to fall, and what we are going to analyze now will change everything you think about the final revelation. If you've made it this far into the video, you're part of a select and extremely courageous minority that isn't content with what's served on the surface. In today's world, where people's attention is constantly bombarded and fragmented by trivialities, fleeting amusements, and noise that leads nowhere, the simple fact that you've dedicated your precious time to delving deep into this investigation into the origin of the Antichrist reveals something powerful and transformative about who you are. It shows that you're not just another passive spectator in the grand theater of life, but a true seeker of knowledge, spiritual discernment, and the truth that liberates. Reaching the end of such a dense, complex, and meaningful analysis proves, without a doubt, that you understand the absolute urgency of the times we live in, and that your search for answers isn't motivated by mere intellectual curiosity, but by a deep instinct for vigilance and preparation for what is to come. Now that the pieces of this ancient prophetic puzzle have been scattered before you, from the iron legacy of the Roman Empire to the scorching sands of the Middle East and the military powers emerging from the frozen reaches of the North, the responsibility of keeping this understanding alive and vibrant now rests in your hands. This is the exact moment when we separate those who merely hear the words from those who truly understand the gravity of the apocalyptic scenario unfolding before our eyes. To definitively seal your commitment to truth and the serious study of sacred scriptures, I want to extend an invitation that goes far beyond the ordinary. If you value this type of content that isn't afraid to touch on geopolitical wounds, that doesn't shy away from difficult theological questions. And if you want these analyses to continue reaching minds still immersed in the deep darkness of ignorance, I ask that you leave your like right now. This small gesture, which seems simple, is actually your way of signaling to the silent gears of the algorithms that this message is relevant, that it is necessary, and above all, that it is urgent for our generation. Furthermore, if your heart burns for more revelations, and if you feel the need to be connected to a community of people who, like you, have decided not to be deceived by the system of deception being set up, subscribe to the channel now and officially become part of our family of watchmen. Activating notifications is not just a technical detail of the platform. It's your personal guarantee that no important prophetic development will go unnoticed by your attentive eyes. As final proof that you are one of the few who watched every detail and absorbed every clue of this exhaustive investigation, I propose an engagement challenge to shake up the system. Go to the comments now and type the following phrase: "I am a watchful observer." By writing this, you show me and everyone else that you are awake while the world sleeps. But our study cannot stop here. There is an even deeper connection that you need to understand immediately, so that the complete picture of the end times makes full sense in your mind. That's why I've prepared exclusive supplementary content that's appearing on your screen now. This video is the next logical step for anyone who wants to understand how the global economic system connects to everything we've discussed today. Don't interrupt your journey now that your mind is sharp. Click on this video that has appeared on the screen, and let's continue unraveling together the mysteries that most prefer to ignore, but which you know are key to understanding the destiny of humanity.